Laura Loomer is on the line. Hey, Laura, how you doing?
Hey, doing well. How are you, Kathy?
I am doing well. I don't know how much of my rant you heard, but I was just talking to the audience about Costco is encouraging their shareholders to vote against getting rid of DEI. And I'm just talking, DEI sucks and it hasn't really done a whole lot of good. But I wanted you to come on because, in all fairness, Laura, on Christmas Eve, all hell broke out. And in large part, whether someone thinks it was a good discussion or not a good discussion, and everything that has come out of it, the reality is no one would be talking about H-1Bs and the immigration and removing caps if it wasn't for you. You were the one who threw a rock in the crowd and got everyone to look up and say, "What's going on? What is the motivation of different people? Maybe we should consider the motivations of different groups of people." It was you who started that, for better or for worse. You have also bear the largest brunt of all of this. And I just wanted to give you an opportunity to come and talk to us about why you thought it was so important to talk about what was going on with H-1Bs and other visas. And how are you doing?
Well, I appreciate you having me on, and thanks so much. Yeah, it was a pretty crazy holiday. I wasn't expecting to spend Christmas and Hanukkah arguing with the richest man in the world and all the technocrats that are trying to infiltrate the White House. But look, we needed to have this conversation, and the reality is that Elon Musk needs to have his influence checked, and we can't allow for tech billionaires and people like Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy and others who have this sense of superiority over the rest of us peasants in society and the rest of us, everyday folk who really just aren't the so-called best and brightest. Because I don't know if you learned, Kathy, but 80% of the best and brightest people in the world live in India. The rest of us are just, we're just a bunch of low IQ peasants, I suppose. But we elected Donald Trump to be our president. And I find it to be rather uncomfortable that we have these very wealthy individuals who have control over our flow of information through social media companies, people who have now been appointed by President Trump. And they are promoting policies and trying to reform our immigration policy in direct opposition to original MAGA America First policies. And I don't care which reporters want to pretend and say President Trump now all of a sudden supports H-1B. Promises made are promises kept. And in 2016, when we began this MAGA movement, the amazing MAGA movement that got President Trump elected 3 times now, okay? We had a stolen election, but it's now gotten him elected 3 times. We, the people, supported President Trump because he said that we were going to have mass deportations, we were going to build a wall, and he was going to shut down the H-1B visa program, which was heavily abused. And now you have people that are coming in and writing these very large checks, okay? And they are trying to buy off political influence so that they can try to have a bigger seat at the table and completely erode American democracy, our constitutional republic, our political system, and the way our voices are supposed to be heard, because they think that they are the kings of society now. The tech elite who want to rule over us, turn all of us into indentured servitudes who have to work 80 hours a week with no work-life balance so that the tech billionaires can have complete control and get their cheap labor, and it's going to be at the expense of the American people, and we're going to basically turn into another India. And you've seen these tech elites this weekend talking about how they want to increase our migration to 5 million more migrants per year for 20 years, 100 million migrants over the next 20 years until we have a population of 1 billion people. I'm not making this up. These are statements that have been made by people who are now incoming Trump administration officials, and it should be very concerning to people. We voted for President Trump, and if I had to be the one to say it because everybody wants to kiss Elon's ass and everybody's too afraid to challenge the richest man in the world, then so be it. I'm going to be the one to say I don't like the fact that a billionaire is trying to overshadow President Trump and control our policy. I didn't vote for this.
Now, do you believe that there is a deficiency in the education of of our children, what our children are being, what the
Yeah,
typical
absolutely.
American.
There's a deficiency,
So what do you
but
but so
there's
what do you
not a,
believe the answer is?
there's not there's not a deficiency in the American mind like Vivek was trying to say. I mean, look, I understand, and I don't have anything against Indian people. I don't have anything against Vivek Ramaswamy. In fact, until Vivek made these comments, I had said, Vivek could potentially be a future U.S. president after President Trump. But Indian culture is supremacist in nature. And so perhaps this is why Vivek Ramaswamy, as an Indian American, has these views. Indian culture is very supremacist. They have a caste system. That's how society operates in India. So, you know, maybe he thinks that it's okay to talk down to Americans the way he's talking down to us. And make it sound like our society needs to be ruled by the most high IQ individuals or this cultural technocratic elite. But that's not how American society works. And so if people want to come to our country and they say that they want to live here for opportunity, they need to be willing to assimilate. And assimilation doesn't just mean learning the culture and coming here legally, but it also means adapting to our culture instead of trying to push your own supremacist
Well,
culture onto
well,
our culture.
well, two things. I will get to Vivek in a moment, but let me just go to another point that you just made. You said that that's not how our country works. That we don't allow high IQ technocrats to run the nation, and that's so. How should it work? Don't we want the smartest people to lead our country?
We want the smartest people to lead our country, but we don't want the smartest people in our country to also be the richest people in the world, to get government contracts and subsidies so that they can be billionaire welfare queens and then have access to the Defense Department and a security clearance and access to all the social media networks so that if there's any type of, dissent, they can just shut us down or hypothetically speaking in the future, even utilize their defense contracts against the people that are standing in their way. I mean, maybe it sounds far fetched, but it's actually not far fetched. And we didn't. The founding fathers, advocated for a separation of powers, and I fear that the technocrats are trying to really undermine, infiltrate, and completely reform and eliminate our structure of government and our way of doing politics here in America so that they really can rule like monarchs, so that they really can have this feudalist type society where we are indentured servants and peasants, and we just have to respond to the orders and the commands and the wishes of a feudalist monarchist state.
Now, of course, Elon did not say that, neither did Vivek. So why do you believe that?
Because this is the ideology that they subscribe to. So I just got off of War Room and Steve Bannon's show, and I was talking about how a lot of these guys in tech, and it's well known, they subscribe to the philosophy called Dark Enlightenment. And Dark Enlightenment is an anti-democratic movement that wants to install a technocratic monarchy in America. So this is well known. One of the main minds behind this, or two of the main guys, is a guy named Curtis Yarvin, another guy by the name of Nick Land. Curtis Yarvin receives a lot of his funding from Peter Thiel, and of course, we know that Peter Thiel is the guy who financed J.D. Vance's Senate campaign and had a lot of influence during the first administration. And so these guys have these very warped ideas, and they have unlimited amounts of money. And now they're getting appointed to positions in the Trump administration. And I find it to be concerning because
So let me
already
ask you this. Time,
President Trump hasn't even been inaugurated yet, and
right.
we're already seeing
Time
complete
is
disrespect of the MAGA base. They called us
I'm going to
retards.
have to take a break in a moment, but I want to get into this with you just a little bit. How do we breed a culture in America that puts an emphasis on education, on STEM, on those things? Because I don't believe that they're wrong in the fact that there is a deficit. I don't believe the answer is to go across the world to bring in other people. But in the short term, what are your thoughts on correcting this? Because there is a deficit, there is a need. How do we change that? Long term, obviously, get rid of DEI, CRT, all of this foolishness, put an emphasis on STEM. But in the short term, what do you think these corporations should do?
Well, they should be investing their money into training and Maybe we need to establish more schools, right? Maybe we need to establish more technical schools in America, or increase our curriculum starting from K through 12. So it's not a big surprise that America has a deficiency when it comes to math and science and STEM in our educational system. But the solution is to not replace Americans and deprive Americans of opportunities because of a stain on our educational system, something that the tech elites also really need to take responsibility for, because these are the people that funded for decades DEI initiatives and the degradation of family values in our society. And
When they went after you, it reminded me of how they went after me in 2022 when I ran against Dr. Oz. Like, they were ruthless and merciless, and they were just, I mean, they came after me so hard. And I was almost having whiplash as I watched them come after you so hard with everything blazing, which got me to thinking you must be over the target, because Elon, for better or for worse, lost it and just went on just had a break. I have 1 minute. I'm gonna give it to you, Laura.
well, I appreciate it. And yeah, I've been fighting this for a long time. So I've seen the type of devastation and the type of consequences that happen to the life of the ordinary American. It's something that I've lived as my own experience. When the technocrats have this, kind of unrelenting, unchecked power. And so we need to be very critical and skeptical of people. And we can be grateful. Okay, I'll say we can be grateful that Elon Musk wrote a check for $200 million, and he did help get Twitter back so that people could have their voices in an election year. But what was the ultimate intention? Okay, what was the ultimate intention? And so we need to protect President Trump. Everybody has their own agenda